had a lot of fun. We'd celebrate all the holidays and, 4th of July and just, so it was a really, really fun upbringing.
Yeah.
You're watching the Spotlight Network. Starring Hollywood's newsman, Logan Crawford.
They now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford. Streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're diving into a powerful and inspiring true story, a story of transformation, one that resonates with viewers searching for self-discovery, life purpose, overcoming adversity, and personal growth. The name of the book, Black Boy from the Barrio. It is written by certified life coach and author Cornelius Wright. In the book, he shares his remarkable journey from living a life of distraction and limitation to discovering his why and redefining his destiny. This motivational memoir reveals how faith, mentorship, and relentless determination helped him rewrite not only his own story, but also inspire countless others to step into their purpose. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Mainspring Books for helping us put him on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Neo, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Logan. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Let's talk about the inspiration behind it. Why did you decide to share your story?
I just wanted to do something, different in my family. No one's really ever written a book or anything like that, and I just mainly want to just leave my footprint, before I leave this world, because, the saying goes, none of us makes it out of here alive. Right. And so, right. And so I just want to, just leave something for generations, so my grandkids' kids can read something, that's inspirational, that will hopefully motivate them as well, and so that was kind of my inspiration up to write it, just kind of do a little something different, in my family, break some generational curses and just do some things, something that was different. So that was kind of my inspiration.
Well, it's a wonderful book, so we're glad you shared your story. Are all the stories in it real? Are they all true?
Absolutely. Everything I write about, and I have other books as well, everything is true. It's no fake fiction. Everything is true, right? And so all the stories are true. Growing up on the ranch, everything is absolutely true in anything that I write.
Great, wonderful, and that makes it all the more impactful because a true story, resonates more, I think, with readers. Of course, talk to us about growing up. What was it like?
Well, it was really interesting. I was born December 23rd, 1960. So that will kind of give you an idea of my age. I'll be 65 December 23rd. And we grew up in California Central Valley. Now, and that is for people that might not know, I live in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, right? So California Central Valley is about 250 miles southeast from San Francisco. So it's out in the great San Joaquin Valley. There's a lot of agriculture out there. And so my dad, he worked for one of the biggest farmers out in the Central Valley, and who had thousands of acres of land. And he'd have like these 80-acre plots of land that had like 2 little houses on them and a freshwater well. Right. And so my dad, and some of his, people that also, worked for the boss, they had other plots of land as well, like these 80-acre plots. And so we grew up on a little ranch called South Ranch. They called it South Ranch. There was a North Ranch as well that had 80 acres as well. But Manuel Gutierrez and his family grew up on North Ranch. So we were in South Ranch. So it was me. I have 4 sisters, 2 brothers. I'm right in the middle. And just so and it's on this 80-acre plot of land. You can imagine 80 acres. That's big, right?
That is
80
big. Yeah.
acres. And so, and surrounded by grapes, alfalfa, cotton,
Wow.
you know, our next door neighbor, to show you how remote it was, our next door neighbor was a half a mile that way and a half a mile that way.
Wow.
So that showed,
Yeah.
right. So that was road 144. And it was right in between um, a famous a town called Delano, California. Now, Delano, California is where Cesar Chavez and the whole UFW movement started there in Delano, right? Cesar Chavez actually lived in Delano for a little while. So anyway, and the little town that I grew up in, you know, the Barrio, was called Early Mart, California. And it was and it was about 3.5 miles, 7 miles north of Delano. So we lived right in the middle on Road 144. It's about 3.5 miles to Delano, 3.5 miles to Early Mart. So that's
Mhm.
where we were. And so it was me and my four sisters. So it was a little 2-bedroom house.
Mhm.
You know, and my mother and father, of course, had 1 bedroom, and the rest of us kids, you do the math, right? The rest of us kids stayed in that other bedroom,
It was pretty
right? And
tight.
so, right, it was pretty tight,
Yeah.
you know, but it was a really really fun upbringing. You know, we had dogs and cats. We take the dogs hunting and things like that. You know, and we just play all these games and things like that. You know, and it was a really really we didn't have much. You know, we had enough. You know, I guess we were considered poor. You know, but we, you know, but anyway, we had a loving mother and father, brothers and sisters. You know, and really, really close knit family, you know, and so that's kind of where it started. So from, you know, I was out on South Ranch for 14 years, and then in the mid 70s, mom and dad bought a house in Early Mart, you know, which is 3.5 miles away in 1974. So I spent 14 years of my life out on South Ranch, and then we moved to the big city, Early Mart, which had 3,000 people, right? But for us country kids, it was like, oh man, we get to move to the city, man. It's like, oh, this is great, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was kind of what my upbringing was about out there in the South Ranch. And then we got to the town, the big city, you know. It was a little different. It was nice. We had neighbors and everything like that, but we just had a lot of fun, you know. We'd celebrate all the holidays and you know, 4th of July and just so it was a really really fun upbringing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so just
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely. And this book touches not only, of course, on your upbringing and your early life, but your adult life too, and
yes,
how you eventually came into life-changing mentorship, introduced to
yes,
successful business owners who, back in 1994, who showed you the way, basically, right?
yes, they did. Yeah, because you know, I moved up to Berkeley, you know, in 1980 because I met the woman of my dreams
Mhm.
in 1979 in high school. You know,
Yeah.
right after high school, that summer of my senior year, she had she was still actually a junior in a town about 30 miles north of where I lived. It's called Visalia, California. They had like 50,000 people there. But anyway, my buddy talked me into going up in cruising. They have this boulevard called Mooney Boulevard. You know, supposedly there was lots of girls up there because the girls in my town, there wasn't many in my town or they were taken already. So
Right.
it's funny. My buddy talked me into going up to cruise Mooney Boulevard because there's girls up there, right?
Yep.
And it's funny how life works, right? I said no, 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 Bobby. I said no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Took him about 15 minutes to finally, you know, convince me to go up there. And so I had a Suzuki 500 motorcycle at the time. It was 1979. All right, Bobby. All right, I'll go, man. You just leave me alone. So he jumps on the back. We go up to Visalia, and it was right. He was right. It was some girls up there. So back in those days, we cruised, right? So we
Yep.
about an hour into that trip, you know, there's a truck going by the other way, waved at me, you know, and lo and behold, you know, I told them to turn around, turn around. So these two women, young girls, got out there, got out of the truck, and they actually, one of them said, Cornelius, Wright? Are you? I said, yeah, because see, I was a big time basketball player around there, and they
Okay,
used to
cool.
actually go to these tournaments around there, looking at the cute boys from that play basketball,
Basketball team or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
stuff. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say this. I met Kim Wong. She's half Chinese, half Dutch, born in
Mhm.
Canada. Was a national scholar headed to Harvard or UC Berkeley. And
Wow.
so she ended up coming to Berkeley in 1980. I stayed there and worked. I had played basketball at a local JC right after college for 1 year. Then I worked at a sulfur plant for a year. And so I used to come up and visit her and stuff. But anyway, September 1981, I packed my bags, $1,100 in my pocket, came up to be with her into her world. Now they were totally different. They were academia. Her father, Dr. Wong, was head of the whole county medical center. Her mother was a nursing professor at Fresno State.
Wow.
She's old. She's the oldest of 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. 3 went to UC Berkeley, 3 went to UC Davis. So they're academia and all this. So
Right.
this young couple fell in love. I was 18, she was 17. I'm 65, she's 64. You do
Yep.
the math, right? And
Yep.
so we have a 25-year-old daughter, but she came up here. So I came up here to be with her with
Mhm.
nothing, right? So I moved up here. I was homeless for a summer. I was,
Mm.
and so, so I struggled. They had money and stuff. So they all went to college and all this kind of stuff. But
Right.
we dated for years in privacy, fearing, I'm a boy from the hood, and they had money and their academia, fearing that they wouldn't accept me. So we dated 13 years without me formally meeting them until we got married. So anyway,
Wow.
so that's another story, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I came up here and to survive, I got into house painting. And little did I know that I'd be a house painter from 1983 to 2015. That's 32 years, right? And so, but I got into how I was a contractor for a while and things of that nature. But about 10 years into my house painting career, this is when my life started. I met some successful business owners that were teaching success principles, and I liked it. And so human development, personal development. So I started going to business meetings in the evenings and things of that nature. Started reading. I It's funny. I'm an author now, but I didn't write my first book. I didn't read my first book from cover to cover till I was 31 years old.
Right.
I wasn't a reader. Now
Yep.
I'm an avid reader, right?
Yep.
Because one of my mentors said, Neo, he says leaders are readers.
Yeah.
He says, not all readers are leaders, but he said, if you want to
Mhm.
become a leader, especially in business and succeed, you need to become a reader.
Yep.
And so they had like a book of the month club and stuff like that. So that's when I started reading, right? And then I started learning about what failure was really, really quickly because I was trying to build a business from scratch. And so I got into different types of businesses and I'd fail, I'd start another one, fail, start another one. I just wouldn't quit. And so I
Yep.
just kept failing, but I kept failing forward, right? There's a book called Failing Forward. So I just kept
Mhm.
failing forward. I just wouldn't quit,
Yep.
And so because Jesus gave me just this grand vision of, of that I was going to do something special. So I kept failing. 2015, I was 54 years old, and that's when I started driving for Uber and Lyft.
Mhm.
You know, if you want to ask another question, I know that's a long way to answer a
No,
question.
no,
But
no.
if you want to
No,
question,
no, it's been very, very interesting. And like a lot of lives, it takes a circuitous journey, of course. You really like what you've been doing over the last decade. What have you been doing over the last decade? Tell us about that and let the folks at home know a little bit about that part of your life.
okay, yes, and so 2015, I was 54 years old at the time, and I decided to I leave. I was still climbing ladders and stuff, right? And so I
Yep.
said, let me change something. Um, and so, excuse my voice a little bit too, because I had a little cough here the last couple of days,
Oh,
so
you're
my
fine.
voice
You're
goes
fine.
and comes. Forgive me for that.
Sure.
And so I started driving for Lyft and Uber because driving people around is a lot easier than painting houses, climbing ladders. So I
I'm
said, let me
sure.
do that.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started driving for Lyft back in 2015,
Mhm.
right? And this is when Jesus started giving me more vision, what I'm going to do with the second half of my life.
Right.
And he gave me unlimited vision. And one thing about me, I'm a movement guy. I found out I'm a
Hmm.
movement guy, which means I start movements. So whatever I'm going to do is going to be big.
Yeah.
Not because I'm ego driven or anything like that. It's because I'm also a humanitarian, which means
Hmm.
I serve people. So if the bigger I think, that means the more people I can serve.
Yeah.
That's just how I think. And so I started writing the memoirs to Black Boy from the Barrio in 2015, while driving for Lyft, Lyft and Uber, so I started writing the memoirs to that. I
Yeah.
gave myself about a 5-year time frame to write that. Initially, I was going to write a whole autobiography, but I decided to just write it in volumes. This is volume 1 of Black
Yeah.
Boy from the Barrio. It goes from birth to 10 years old. Then the next one will go 10 to 20 and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So I decided to write those volumes. 2017, I became a certified life coach.
Wonderful.
And because I really, really love people. I knew about goal setting and throughout my business career, I learned how to build teams. I learned how to do sales. I learned how to teach. I have so many skills, and I'm a driven individual. I'm a big time dreamer and a driven individual. And so because I really, really love to help people. So I became a certified life coach during that time. But during that time, Logan, something kind of, life will take a kind of a turn all of a sudden, because when we were out there on South Ranch, I didn't mention, and my book mentions it, that my mother was schizophrenic and she was going
Mm.
in and out of mental institutions, and my dad struggled with that for years. And so it didn't tear the family apart like it did with her sister's
Yeah.
family. But my dad, he stayed with the kids, and, we stayed with our aunts. But my mother was in and out of mental institutions and stuff.
Mm.
And I tell you, and that was tough on the family. It was
Yeah.
kind of tough on us,
Yeah.
seeing the police taking your mom away in
Mm.
a car, kicking and screaming. She was with
Awful.
a psychotic episode.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm saying all that to say this: in 2017, there was a change. All of a sudden, I had concentration issues, like concentrating. Something started happening with my sleep, and I just felt a little different, a little odd. And I went to the doctor, and they said, "Neil, you're perfectly healthy, but I think you might have anxiety or something." I'm like,
Mm.
anxiety? Yeah, I heard of that, but I
Yeah.
never really, what is
Focused
that?
on it. Yeah.
I didn't really know, and so, but I wouldn't know after a while, and because all of a sudden I couldn't sleep. I had trouble sleeping.
Mm.
And so so all of a sudden I started researching it. Some people go to therapy, some people might take the medication, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I was driving for Lyft at that time.
Mm.
And I tell you, like a lot of us men are prideful. We're kind of, we don't like to talk about our feelings and stuff like that. But I tell
Right.
you that if any of you out there have any kind of mental health issues or whatever, it will break you down. As you
Yeah.
know, it had me crawling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sleeping. I needed help. And so I
Yeah.
asked for help, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I need help. I cannot deal with this. Right.
Right.
And so went into therapy and eventually got on medication, and this was very humbling from a ex-athlete and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I thought this happened to other people.
Right, right. Exactly. Because you've been in control your whole life, and now you finally found yourself at a point where you had to turn to others for help. And like you said, as a man, it's hard to do sometimes. It's hard to acknowledge you're having a challenge with your mental health. You have the fears of what happened to your mother happening to you, I'm sure, as a layer of that as well. So we're glad you got the help you needed and got yourself on a good road. This is volume 1. We're looking forward to volume 2 and many other volumes coming. It's going to be a series of books, correct?
Yes, it is. I already
Excellent.
started on volume 2.
Okay,
Um,
great.
and so that's going to be, I already have all the titles and stuff like that,
Okay,
all lined up
awesome.
and stuff like that. And so, because I want to, to captivate an audience, as you can
Yeah,
see, I'm kind of I got a lot of energy, and I'm
you're a high
just,
energy guy.
I got a lot of energy, and I'm just, I just love to inspire people,
Wonderful.
it's just the way I am, and so
Well,
I do
well,
have
this
no
book
problem.
you've written is very inspiring. We're looking forward to the subsequent volumes as well. The book we're talking about today is called Black Boy from the Barrio. In it, Neo shares his remarkable journey from living a life of distraction and limitation to discovering his why and redefining his destiny. Neo, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yes, thanks you so much for having me.
Such a great time talking to you. I appreciate your insight and the work you've done on this book and your high energy. I think you're going to go play some basketball after this. I think you're ready for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I need to do something.
Exactly. Same here. I'm the same type. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time.